Hey, good morning. I just shook Tim Berners-Lee's hand. No big deal. And right after it was done, I was like, achievement unlocked, motherfucker. So if you haven't unlocked that achievement, he's somewhere. Tim, run. Achievement unlocked. Hi. So I'm Joshua Davis. Really excited to be here. I have to extend a huge amount of gratitude for you all in the group because you've given me my life's calling. You've given me my career. So I can't thank you enough for having me here and letting me share a little bit of my experience, strength, and hope. I got onto the web around 94 or so. I think Netscape 2 had just come out. And I would SSH into my server, and I would write HTML in VI live. Yeah. That's how OG this shit is. Like, crazy. No, Emacs was way too complicated. I couldn't figure out any of that crap. So, yeah, I'm going to spend the next 6 hours talking to you about SVG. No. No, I'm going to spend the next hour just showing some of my projects and kind of what I'm working on now and just things that I think about. I am a creative coder. I talk about the early days of the internet for me because it wasn't about getting a job and it wasn't about buying books and it wasn't about any of that. For me, I saw it as a canvas to make art. I saw it as a place where I could express myself. And holy crap, I had a global audience. And before this, I thought, I'll just be an artist, and I'll get that art show in the coffee shop. And then eventually I'll move up to the gallery, and then before I die, maybe I'll get into a museum. And so actually the opposite happened. I've been in about 10 different museums, and I've never had a single coffee shop show. So one of these days, I will be in a fucking coffee shop. So yes, in 2006, I was inducted into the Cooper Hewitt National Design Museum's Triennial, which is owned by the Smithsonian, and I'm not dead, which is a super bonus. A few years around that time, I was in John Maida's book called Creative Code. Again, just this generation of designers and artists that are using web tools, that are using media and the platform of the web to actually make art. Though while that's fun, I do have clients. The last project I worked on, maybe some of you know, it was IBM Watson. I designed the face of Watson that actually played Jeopardy. So that was super fun. You had these two really smart guys sandwiched between my artwork, which was super fun. So last year I really talked about this project. There's plenty of stuff online that you can check out, so I won't talk about that any further. But I do write programs to generate art, and specifically vector-based assets. So what I'll do is I'll use web technologies to generate a bunch of rules and boundaries, and I'll store colors and array lists, and then I run this program, and this program has a certain way of generating patterns and aesthetic, and it presents a composition with me. For me. And again, it's like a snowflake. I could run this program over and over and over again and get an infinite number of randomly generated compositions. So for me, this is play, but it's kind of beyond play, for me. Somehow I've figured out how to make this play sort of my daily job. And I can trace it back very early. I went to Catholic school. It was spring 1980, St. Mary's Catholic School in Littleton, Colorado. And it was the playground. I was on the playground, and there was all sorts of stuff like a football, an American football. See how I did that? My European friends. Hula hoop, but I grabbed the stick. And what I would do is I'd push the gravel out of the way, and I would start carving these shapes in the dirt. And kids would come over and be like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" And I said, well, you're not going to believe this, but I found dinosaur bones on the playground. And I was convinced I would carve these shapes and that I had found dinosaur bones on our playground, Littleton, Colorado, St. Mary's, St. Mary's Elementary School, right under, like 6 inches under the gravel. Who knew? And so, the kids would be like, dude, you're fucking weird. I don't know what to tell you. But what happened is that the nuns called my house and they said, listen, your son has this knack for creating things. He's very creative and he's weird, frankly. And what happened is that my parents took this as okay, well, we need to nurture this. And by second grade, my parents were taking me to museums and to galleries, and they were, telling me about the art world, and they were buying me oils. I was like in second grade, and I was working with turpentine. Says a lot. So essentially, that play became work. And so it made me think about this word, right? Work. And not necessarily the action, but more the word of work. And so I said to some friends, I said, listen, I'm going to give this talk, and it's going to be called Beyond Play. And I'm going to do my whole presentation on play and why I think play is important. And a few of my friends said, well, that's a terrible idea because people have to work for a living. And nobody wants to hear you talk about play. And I said, what do you mean? They said, people have to work, and they don't want to hear you talk about play. And so I said, well, I don't understand this. So I decided I was going to conduct this experiment. And what I did was I asked 20 adults and said, what is the opposite of work? And all 20 people said that the opposite of work was play. And this confused me because that wasn't my answer. And so I went to social media, I went onto Twitter, I went onto Facebook, and I said, listen, I need parents out there to ask your kids, what is the opposite of work? And I got about 100 results back, and only about 4 children actually said play. Most of them said a lot of other things. Age 11 said lazy. Age 10 said home. You're not at work, your fucking ass is home. You know what I'm saying? Relaxed, I like that. Boring, very good. Hard. Now, I thought this was an odd answer. Why would the opposite of work be hard? And so I asked, and the kid said, well, if you're not doing anything, that's pretty hard. And what I found is that actually kindergarten teachers and preschool teachers actually tell children when they're engaged in creative play, oh, what great work you're doing. So kids associate very young that work is play, that play is work, that what they're doing is the same thing. And then so I came to the conclusion that work and play actually aren't antonyms, they're actually synonyms. So how can we bring more play into our workplaces? How can we bring more play into our creative process? So where did this all start? Well, this is Mark Thiele. He lives in Cologne, Germany, and he actually runs a conference in Cologne called Beyond Tellerrand, which is German for Beyond Play. And he invited me there, and I said, oh, this is great. I really like the name of your conference, and I think I'm going to make that my presentation. And so I went and talked about this process. Now, I use a language called processing, which has been around for a little while. It sits on top of Java. And I enjoy it because I can load in SVG, and I'm really in love with SVG. We're dating exclusively. So I really like this process of loading in SVG and writing programs to generate compositions. And so some of my SVGs will look like this. They're very, very complex. And I'll load them into these art banks and generate these really crazy compositions. And again, these compositions are random. So I go, where was I? I go to Germany, and I give this talk about play. I give this talk about using play in my daily life. And so I'm always inspiration hunting. I get to go to these places, and of course I walk around and I find this like crazy ass cathedral in Cologne. It's called the Domkloster, or what I call evil cathedral. It's crazy. It's crazy evil. But I'm going there to play. I'm going there for inspiration hunting. And I find this stained glass in there, and I get inspired by the stained glass. And seeing this stuff sparks ideas to try things, right? To play. And so what I found is that I was wondering if I could replicate stained glass somehow. So I ended up buying this clear film that silk screeners use for inkjet printers. And it ends up that you can make this artwork and you print it out black, and then they would use this black film to actually burn silk screens. Well, what you don't know is that it actually takes color really great. So I bought the silk screener film, printed it on my inkjet printer, and actually I could replicate this idea of stained glass. Again, using SVG and a digital printer and the silk screener's film. And so I've been playing with these ideas, and you can see how the light pours in. It's really, really quite fantastic. At nighttime, it would light spaces on the inside. So these are things that I try, things that I don't know if we're going to succeed, but that's part of play is failure and trying things. So of course I freak out on the floors in Evil Cathedral, and I'm looking at this round section here, thinking, well, okay, that's just a kaleidoscope. I can create something that starts to reflect these vector assets to create these infinite patterns, and eventually maybe I'll get to some place like this. And for me, this is what's exciting. I don't know how to make this manually. I couldn't open up Illustrator and make this. This would take me a lifetime. But with programming, I can create these sort of impossible compositions. And I always love telling the story. The last Illustrator file that I just generated was 3.5 million vector points. If anybody is at Adobe, can we put in a custom dialog box for me that just says, "I fucking hate you," every time it opens up an Illustrator file, maybe over 3 million vector points? There should just be a custom personalized, thumbs up to me or something. Let's make it happen. Everybody loves Easter eggs. So I'm freaking out at this floor. I'm freaking out at Evil Cathedral. I'm engaged in creative play. And while I'm there, this shit happens. This volcano goes off, and I'm stuck in Germany for 7 extra days. And so I check out of my hotel, and I actually move into Mark and his family in Krefeld. And so, he's got 2 kids, and I'm drawing dragons for them all day long. Apparently, that's just what you do. And so Mark says, "Hey, can you help me carry some stuff up from the basement?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we go down in the basement, and I hit this shit. I'm like, "Holy crap! Have you seen your cellar floor?" He's like, "Yes, Josh, I live here. Decaf, bring it down a notch." I'm freaking out. And I'm like, "Oh my God, how have you not written this already? We can make this happen." So inspired by his floor, accidental inspiration hunting, I go upstairs and start writing these programs, all based on this accidental floor that I come up with. And it so happened that at the time I was asked to do a cover of a book, and I ended up using this piece to generate the pattern on the book. So this inspiration hunting, this play becomes work. It inspires me to do things that I apply to clients, and in this case, this book cover. All inspired by Mark's floor. Now, don't even get me started on hotel carpet. I'm not quite sure how you get this job, but if we can just talk for a moment, because I want this job. Can you imagine this interview, right? Can you imagine how this interview would go? "Hi, how are you?" "Oh, I'm good, thank you. So, you want to make hotel carpet?" "Yes, I do." Good. Are you fucking crazy?" "Yes." Good. Are you on acid right now?" "Yes." "You're hired." That's got to be how the interview goes. I'm convinced that this is how. I have a folder on my desktop called Fucked Up Hotel Carpets. And if you want to contribute to that folder, My email is hella easy. Please send me an email. And I love my shoes. Look at my shoes. Look at how awesome my shoes are. I love these shoes because they're the ones that I picked as a kid, you know? Like my mom used to buy my shoes, but then like when it was my turn, because I was big enough to buy my own shoes, these are the ones that I picked. And so I still wear these shoes because they remind me, you know, of being a kid, of being playful. And so I'm wearing these shoes in Germany, and Mark looks at me and says, "Oh, you like Vans, huh?" I said, "Yeah, I like Vans." He goes, "Oh, me too." I'm like, "Oh, cool. You got 6 pairs there. Awesome." I have 22, so clearly I have won the Vans battle. And look at him, he's so sad. Winter Davis, look at him. Oh, I beat him. And then look what this fucker does. He sends me this picture. He's like, okay, I got skateboards. I'm like, dude, come on. And he says, "Is that all you got?" And I said, "No, I've got 3 times that amount. That's just all I photographed." So yes, I did have a midlife crisis. I do have a half pipe in my backyard. Yeah, so that's fun. I'm going to be 42 this year, and I've actually skateboarding better than I've ever did. It's weird. It's just really weird. If you're wondering about the chalk outline, that's Jerry. Jerry's not a skateboarder. I should just put that out. Jerry does not skateboard, but Jerry wanted to try it. And that's where Jerry fell and broke his elbow in 4 places. So I just want to say that if you're going to come over and try this, can you fall somewhere else? Because I'd really love to fill up the ramp with bodies. So I love skateboarding. I've been doing it since I was 12. And again, I'm doing some of the best skateboarding I've ever done in my life. It's really fun. This was when I was 39. It's the highest air I've ever done, which is about 9 feet. This is what happens when you fall. I don't recommend it. I showed this to Mark's kids, and Mark's kid says, "What's the big deal? He's just holding the tree." Such a great perspective. So play. You have to give yourself projects, and this is something that I constantly do. I'm constantly giving myself projects. And the harder the projects are, generally the better the result is. This was at a bar in Mar del Plata, Argentina, where the conference organizer brought these masks and invited all of the people who attended the conference actually to drink and wear masks. It's very successful. A lot of people got laid. All right, I'm sorry, it's early. So I'm constantly giving myself projects. Like this here, I just put this little grid in the upper left-hand corner, and I wanted to try to make as many assets as I could that adhered to that grid. And so I like this idea of creating complexity from simplicity. So I would work out these very small ideas, and then I could put them into a reflection system to create more complex shapes. So let's say I like this complex shape in the middle. Output that to SVG, and now I have a more complex shape. And like a feedback loop, I can put this new complex shape back into the system, and obviously, you do that a bunch of times, and you can get to places like this. Again, this is a program that generated this composition. If I didn't like it, I could run it again, and I would get a completely unique composition. I do like putting color in arrays so that color gets randomly generated. And these are just a few. If you own a mosque, call me. We could do this. Like hard, we could do this. If you have a church, call me. So I do these playful explorations. And each one of these slivers, again, is the program outputted a different time. And what I'll do is I'll take these things, and then I can put them on screen, or I like this idea of getting back into physical space. So I like this idea of digital to physical. And I really keep saying by escaping my tools, because it's very easy for me to work in a vacuum with my tool set. And if I can get outside of those tools, generally new problems arise, new things occur that help me further down this path of creativity. And so these are just some outputs on print, on paper. And again, this is just a moment in time of a program that's been frozen and outputted to paper. And what I like to do is I do this workshop in Aspen, Colorado at this place called the Anderson Ranch Workshop. And this year we're actually doing silk screens. We did this 2 years ago. So what we'll do is we'll do processing in SVG, output to film, and then that film gets burned onto screen and we actually pull silk screens. So we're actually writing program with web-based tools, with media, new media, and outputting to silk screen. And again, this kind of play helps me come up with ideas. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow, you know, those could be skateboards. And so I said, well, okay, well, maybe they should be skateboards. So I'd found a skateboard template and thought, well, maybe I'll do some play in actually making skateboards. And there's that return back to skateboarding, my love of skateboarding. So I found a company out in California that actually sells blank decks. So I bought about 40 blank decks and started to go through the process of, well, how would I write a program, generate that program, and then go through the act of actually redrawing what got generated. Initially, I tried projecting, but because the lens is round, I would get some distortion. So that wasn't a good solution. So I ended up trying to redraw what the computer randomly generated. And again, escaping my tools presents a whole new set of tools. I don't even know what this thing is, but I love it. Look, it's called Time Saver. It's called Time. What are you doing? I'm trying to make a circle. It's taking forever. Well, have I got a tool for you? Time Saver. Holy shit, I love that. Adobe Time Saver. Easy. So going through this process of again, you know, being inspired by the technology that I use and the tools that I use, but trying it in a completely different medium. And again, it's painful. Don't do this. It hurts. You need aspirin a lot to try to figure these things out. And again, well, okay, let's take this a step further. Let's get back to those skateboards. So I ended up screwing the skateboards onto wood and using a belt sander to get the varnish off. And what I've been doing is hand drawing these skateboards. And they're super beautiful, but painful. They take a really long time to actually make these. And when you sand that varnish off, I've been using markers, and the marker actually sinks into the wood, and it becomes sort of like a stain. And then after it's done, I do a matte varnish on top. So again, this play inspires me to try things, right? So last year at the Anderson Ranch Workshop, I sent about 30 of these skateboards to Colorado. And what we did is processing in SVG and actually sent the files to a CNC router. And my 9 students actually wrote programs to actually carve the patterns into skateboards. So we had about 40 skateboards there and 9 students, so each student got to do around 2 or 3 skateboards. So again, using the tools that we all create, but use them in ways that's unexpected. In this case, the wood shop. So thoughts on play. I've got to keep it simple. I try things simply. And a lot of this stuff is just throwaway. This is me doing Lindemeyer systems, you know, from the 60s, Astrid Lindemeyer, and trying things to see like, well, okay, how can I randomize an L system? How can I randomly seed an L system to give me patterns that maybe are unexpected? And so I work out a lot of these ideas to see where that branch goes. And sometimes the code fails. Sometimes the code breaks. And so this is an accident. But a good one. And so I like the failures, the process, sometimes I get these really weird things. Again, this is generated from an L system. And I thought, well, I wonder if I could make a typeface out of that. So I took that form, duplicated it, and started doing this, this typeface. Now, you might be wondering who Bones is. This is another project that I give myself. I like going on to SoundCloud and listening to music. And so I found this guy Bones, and I'm listening to his music, and it inspired me to start working on some of these type forms with his stuff. So I started making this type, I started generating these graphics, and then I just emailed the dude out of the blue, and I said, hey, my name is Josh Davis. I've been working on your logo and your brand packaging. Please don't use blue, let's keep it grayscale. The kerning is where it needs to be. And the guy's like, what the fuck? He's like a 16-year-old kid, like, in Chicago. He's just like, oh, okay, I won't use blue, I won't use blue. You gotta do that stuff, it's fun. It freaks kids out. I'm all about freaking people out. So these experiments that I do, this is more L system stuff, these are some of the accidents. These are some of the seeds that didn't work very well. But I stumble upon these moments that do work, so I really liked this ribbon effect. And it's like, how do I harness that randomization? How do I repeat that randomization? What sort of random seeds do I need to use in order to get these kind of results that will turn into projects that I work on? So when I'm at design conferences, I always talk about this next slide, which is, this is the secret. And I don't understand why more designers don't know this, but this is the holy grail secret right here. So brace yourself. The type of work you make is the type of work you'll get hired to do. Asshole. Right? And that's my message. It's like, you should make things that you enjoy. You should make things that you like because, again, that will turn into work. And I take this play and I make the things that I enjoy, the forms that I respond to, the colors that I respond to. And when you do this, people like this call. Yeah. So this is Deadmau5. His real name is Joel Zimmerman. And as a designer, it's a wet dream. It's a wet dream to watch his stage show. It's bananas. The amount of LEDs and animation that he's doing is inspiring. It's bananas. This is called the Cube, and it's, again, a whole field of LEDs. And so we started working, I guess maybe about 1.5 years ago. And what I do is I generate graphics for a lot of his stuff. So he was doing a European tour. He wanted something with gears. So I started drawing these gears in Illustrator, outputting them to SVG, using processing to randomly generate these posters. So this was one that was just black and white. Later, it ends up becoming this full color thing for his European tour. Later, he gets this relationship with a headphone manufacturer called Soul Republic and wanted to know if I would actually design the headband for the headphones. So again, wrote a program to generate these headbands. You can see in the middle the two strips. And with advancements in production, we actually can print this out on a film, and then that film can get transferred actually to the plastic without destroying the artwork, even though you're moving the headphones up and down. So this is exciting. This idea of manufacturing changing outside of just black, white, silver, red headphones. The idea that we can do graphics across the headphones is exciting. And this guy wore them at the Olympics. I think he's a swimmer. He swims, I think. So this is what the headphones ended up looking like. Super cool. And again, I just sort of work out all of these ideas. I play for Joel. And some of these things he never uses, and some of the stuff that he does. So what's nice is he just had this LED head made. You could see it in the background here. It's actually a field of LEDs across the surface of this sphere. And it's a really challenging project because the field is only, I think, 56 pixels wide by 48 pixels high. So that's my canvas, very, very small. So again, an interesting project, an interesting challenge. How many different things can I program in that very, very small space? And it ends up that these little animations get created. They get attached to a MIDI controller. And while he's on stage, he actually can press a MIDI controller and actually trigger the animations across the surface of his head. So for me, this play, this work, has to embrace collaboration. I'm constantly trying to work with others. You know, there's a lot of really smart people in this room that that I could collaborate with, that we all could collaborate with. It's important for me to get outside of my head and to try to work with others. This is me trying to teach my daughter how to do watercolors. I did the fish on the bottom, so very German, must do the red, the orange, the yellow, repeat. Very, very structured. This is my daughter up here, like, the fucking waves will be rainbow, and we'll just push color everywhere. There's a chaos that as an adult, I've left that, and it's these kind of projects that get me back to, oh, I can go outside the lines, and that's quite all right. So embracing collaboration doesn't necessarily also mean working with others. It means maybe working with others in an environment in public space. So I work at a place called Code and Theory in New York. We're in Soho. We're in the old Andy Warhol Interview magazine building. It's super, super fun. And my job there is to make things that engage the public in public space. So did this installation in Lisbon, Portugal a few years ago. Each one of these cubes, each one of these squares is actually a three-dimensional cube. And what happens is when that cube rotates, it randomly generates the artwork on the surface. And so this is pre-Connect. What I did is used a camera and infrared lights, and as people would move through their space, their body would actually trigger the rotation of the box. So the mural actually is made by the public over the course of the 3 days or so that it was installed, and just them moving through the space. That's the collaboration, is just people. Dude, it's a win-win. Watch this guy. He's just like, oh yeah, okay. Wait a second. Holy shit, is this me? Let me back up. I should jump. If you can engage the public in this kind of, it's a win-win. So really like this idea of public participation. And again, that doesn't necessarily always mean that I have to use the most high-tech tools. It doesn't mean that I have to use an infrared camera and projection. You know, sometimes it can mean just using traditional markers and pens. So I decided I was going to make this mural in Barcelona, Spain last year. And what I was going to do I was going to write a program to generate this composition. This composition would get generated, and then I was going to hand draw the mural 8 feet by 40 feet. That was fun. So this is actually drawn by hand. It took me a month to do it. I actually drew it at home and then installed it in Barcelona. And then over the course of 3 days, I would actually live paint this thing with the public. So I initially got started, and here I had it roped off, and I started going through the process of figuring out what I was going to color. Here's me coloring. I would grab random people, and it'd be like, you, sir, are doing orange today. Find all the circles and color them orange. And so people would help me. I really played art director. And art directed about 7 people in the help of making this mural. And after it was done, I had to re-ink the whole thing because the paint would actually cover my initial drawing. So I actually drew the composition twice. Listen, don't follow by example, okay? Not a good idea. So again, the mural came out really, really well. And after 3 days, it was destroyed. Wall was torn down, and the piece was destroyed. So I like this idea of the work not being that precious. It's something that happens. It happened over the course of 3 days, and then it was actually thrown out. I did the same thing a couple months later in Mexico. So I did this Mayan stuff, but really the conference organizer was like, Josh, you were way too rigid in Barcelona. You should really loosen it up and do something different in Mexico. So in Mexico, I decided that anything went. I wasn't going to art direct anybody. They could do whatever the hell they wanted. And so at this festival, I had about 2,000 people actually help me color this. And they could do anything. You know, I love Tina. It happened. People could write and draw whatever they wanted. And interestingly enough, it actually came out more interesting than the Barcelona piece did. So again, having 2,000 people help you color this. The last few hours, I went through the process of inking it, and this is what it looks like at the end. So using digital tools, but again, the final result is an analog, trying these different ways of creating things. And so this work has really inspired me to return back to using paper and pen. You know, since '94, I've sat in front of a computer. And now I'm trying to work with a computer, but get back to some of this analog stuff. So in April, I'm having a show in Toronto called The 40 Thieves, and I'm actually drawing 40 of these. They're 2 feet by 5 feet, and I'm drawing 40 different thieves. And again, this is randomly generated by a computer, but I'm going through the process of actually drawing these by hand. So as I was wrapping all this stuff up, I ended up finding this quote by Mark Twain, which I thought was great, which is, work and play are words used to describe the same thing under differing conditions. And I thought, well, what a great quote to put in here, because I think work and play are the same thing. I think that failure is a part of that process. You know, one of my favorite TED Talks is a guy's name who I can't remember that talks about failure. Ken Robinson. Gives a great talk about children and failure. And I think failure is important to play, and it informs what's possible with the work that I'm doing. Now, let's fast forward and some of the stuff that I'm doing now. If you don't know, I'm teaching a workshop tomorrow at the lovely offices of Adobe. I'm teaching a processing plus SVG workshop for $29. Yeah, not $290, $29. So hopefully, if you have the chance to come and take my workshop, details are on my website. It's going to be really fun working with processing. And these are some of the stuff that I'm doing. All sorts of different kind of, this is 3D noise inside of processing, and eventually we'll get to mapping SVG into these systems. So a lot of the work that I'm doing at Code and Theory, let's turn that down a little bit. A lot of the work that I'm doing at Code and Theory is making these systems for public space. So that involves a lot of touch screen. It involves a lot of Arduino. Yeah, if you have the opportunity to turn soda cans into an electric guitar, good times. Good times. So this is some of the stuff that I'll be teaching in my workshop tomorrow. Again, this is all SVG mapped into this environment, and just coming up with some really, really great sequences. I want to talk something that's changed my life. And I have it here, so if you want to tackle me afterwards, I've been playing with this device called the Leap Motion, which is a little tiny device that has about a 3-foot radius and can actually control your fingers in 3-dimensional space. It'll be something that'll be the sort of second half of my workshop tomorrow. For me, it's a game changer. This idea of having this sort of level of precision in a 3-foot radius is really astounding. So I do have the device here if you want to maybe check it out and see a quick demo. Again, this is just, you know, drawing in air, no big deal. Tim Berners-Lee, just drawing in air. Lots changed, buddy. The internet's here now. And with that, thank you so much for having me. Talk to me. I'm fun. Thanks.
Questions?
38 minutes. Suck that, other speakers. All those other fuckers are going to go overtime. Not this guy. In, out.
If you have any questions, I'm sorry. If you have questions, please ask away. We have 6 more minutes for him.
That's seriously some of the most amazing work I've seen in my entire life.
Wow. Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I was curious, what was the first thing that came to your mind that made you want to get into using this whole processing thing? And kind of, like, what was the first thing, like the first time that got you to decide, oh, I want to make this with a computer? Like,
It was, I want to say 93 or 94. I got a 286 computer, and it didn't have an operating system on it. And so I didn't know how computers worked, and so I went down to the library, and they had this thing called Linux. It was $30, and they had the operating system at the back of the book. So I bought Linux, installed it on this computer. Eventually, I got the X-Free 86 window manager up and running, and it looked like shit. So I figured out very quickly how to use GIMP and the window manager to actually start designing my own interfaces for Linux. I used a thing called Enlightenment and Afterstep, or 2 shells that I used on Linux. And it was totally by accident. And eventually, I talked about that I did HTML and JavaScript, and there was still not this aha moment. It was just like, kind of like, oh yes, this is fun. This is like a puzzle. And honestly, I mean, I have to say that it was Flash, and at the time, it was called Future Splash. It was a technology that came along for me that allowed me to be an artist, but really got me started in learning programming. And so eventually Future Splash becomes Flash. Flash 3 introduces this very kind of poor language called Tell Target and a bunch of other stuff. And then it was Flash 4 that I had this kind of aha moment. I was writing code in a window this big that you couldn't resize. And it was at that moment I was just like, oh my God, I can use web technology to create compositions that would take me a lifetime if I had to do it by hand. And it was at that moment, like in 98 or so, that I really embraced using digital tools to make art. Coming from the Linux community meant that everything I make, I had to give away. So if you follow me on Twitter, tomorrow's workshop, if you can't make it, that's okay, because I'll put all the workshop files up on Dropbox. I'm a very firm supporter of open source. So,
thanks.
Thank you. So, thank you. Hey.
I'm wondering if you do any work with laser cutters, like etching on glass or wood?
Yeah, so the compound in Aspen, Colorado, they only have a CNC router. So last year was really my first foray into using any kind of engraving. And it was nice for me to start with the CNC router. I think I would like to get into laser, but haven't yet. So if you have one, call me.
You can also do it on chocolate.
You can?
Yes.
We're going to laser chocolate. That's just happening. It's what's for dinner. Hi.
Hi, I have 2 questions, actually. One of them is really
42
short.
is the first one. Second?
42 questions, yeah. So the first question is, have you seen Secret of Kells?
No,
The movie? You should
haven't.
see it.
Okay.
Your work is very reminiscent. It's this Irish movie. It's extremely beautiful, the whole thing. And it's very similar to some of the work you do.
I'll check it out. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, you should check it out. The second question is, I just had a question, I guess, about the colors you use, because that was one of the things that was really striking about a lot of your work, is the colors just fit together really well, and they're just really nice palettes.
You want to see how I do it?
Yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Can I get my screen back up? Is that possible? Oh, it is there. I just need to, yeah, let me do that. arrangement, mirror. Yes? Okay. So, yeah, color stealing. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So essentially what I do is I actually look, I spend a lot of time searching for photos to actually steal color. So I found this, this image from some friends of mine of kelp. And what happens is that I all the time will be inspiration hunting for color. And I liked these colors quite a bit. And so what I would do is I'd open up this image in Photoshop. Now, it ends up that obviously, as a JPEG, what is it, 16 million colors? So finding the colors out of this is extremely painful. But what you can do is you can actually do save for web. Oh gosh, come back. And you can do, I like to do 32 GIF no dithered. And what it does is it will show you, my resolution is too small, but can you see how it does the palette with it? Okay, so what I can do is I can save this image out, and then I have an air tool. Oh, it's already, and you say load image, and you go to the desktop, and there's the GIF. Oh, there's the color palette. Oh, I don't like that color right there. Let's see, I'll take these out. I'll take that out. Let's get some of these going. No, let's put this yellow next to this one. And so I'm actually updating the palette on the fly. And then I can see it down below, how it's going to mix when I generate assets. I can actually sort HSL, HSV, or lab. And then when you're done, you can click View Color List. And I've got, right now I'm mostly using for processing. So it gives me all the hexadecimal values. I copy those, boom, they're in array list. We're done.
Nice.
Can I get a hallelujah?
Yeah, thank you.
So again, if you follow me on Twitter, this will be up on my public Dropbox. I'll put these workshop files in there. It's just a really, really great air tool for actually stripping color out of photographs. And the nice thing is that you can actually work with JPEGs. Like right here, it says 32 colors. I could actually drag this up to like 176, and I could say load image. I could say, where am I? Desktop. San Fran workshop, color stealing. You could actually post in the JPEG, but you get a lot more noise. It's a lot harder for me to edit that color list. So using JPEG to GIF and then using this tool really helps me extract colors. It's just a really, really, really great trick. We're done? Yeah. We're done. Thank you.